Ready. Wait, hang on. Alright. Oh, that's not you. Alright, this is a really minor thing, but it feels like you press shift on cooldown, like, a lot. I went way too far back, hang on. So, like, if you watch this, right, that's shift. Up cooldown, you're gonna shift again in a second. There's a shift, right? Then you're gonna shift. Maybe not here. That's good. You shift here when you don't really have to, and then like you're gonna shift when he's right next to you, right? And like you do this, like it just seems like you get in the habit of just shifting maybe a little bit too much. Cause like imagine if like you shifted right as like your echo went for that fly, and now as a result like she goes over the roof and you can't LOS her because your beam detaches right before your shift comes back up, right? So be careful with that. It's kind of minor, but yeah. I don't know, not a whole lot to talk about here, to be honest. You should probably just be trying to encourage Foos to just go deeper. He has a lot of room to just like get into this side of the map, because it's like they're not really holding that tightly, and if he just like walks in and then flies over here, like they can't really push him, especially if you follow him. Um, but you guys have just been sitting on choke the whole time, so oh, whoops. That's not really your responsibility, but like if you see something like this happening, like you can like also give input. You're not totally at the whims of whoever you're pocketing. Or we finally get in the map and somebody died. Unlucky. Like, we got into the map and they have grab, right? Like, not a whole lot you can do about that in this situation. Your job in this comp is also, like, not particularly difficult. So a lot, like, I wish I had comms here, because, like, comms are actually much more relevant for what's going on, because if you think about it, like, what kind of die pressure they have? Like, they have none, right? So you don't really worry about protecting your backline very much. Your spot healing is, like, not very important either, outside of, like, very isolated situations. And you're mostly just, like, pocketing your echo, right? So if your echo isn't making plays, and you're not, like, encouraging your echo to make plays, and we're also not moving the backline whenever it's free, right? Like, these are all things that you can help control. It's not necessarily your primary responsibility, but these are all things you can, like, improve. Um, but like in game wise, there's not a lot you actually do here, right? That's very complicated. You just kind of just pocket your echo. That's all you do. Yeah, but like because all you do is pocket your echo, like you need to find other ways to impact the game, besides just like holding blue beam. All right, your echo got into the map. You should Valk that probably. Just Valk, and that way you don't have to expose yourself, but you can like pocket your echo harder, and your echo should try and land on the high ground, so that way she can't get shot. But that's a different story. Um, but either like fly in with her and then pop Valk as soon as like you realize that like she dies and you're about to take focus, or just Valk earlier, and then get the 60 healing per second going on your echo. And then also you can very easily like secure a res, right? Like, do you see how like the fight's already going on, right? Oh my god, hang on. The fight's happening and like you're having no impact because like your echo died in front of you and then you just backed out, right? And that can't be happening, especially when your team's committing, right? Like the fight's on at this point, your echo died, doesn't matter, right? Pop Valk, try and get the res if possible. If not, like do other things, blue beam other people who are fighting, or yellow beam, whatever the case, or like pistol the Mercy. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do, but you can't let your answer be to do nothing, right? That's an easy res. Yeah, like, do you see how these people have been fighting this whole time without any help, right? You gotta give them help. Like he'll yellow beam these people. Like I'm sure you were using to run, but at a certain point, as soon as you realize that the Zarya can't shoot you anymore, as soon as you're around the corner, right, you got to turn around and start walking back and find something else to beam, because these people aren't doing anything, and you're yellow beaming, right? So like even if there was a chance I could do something, you're on the wrong beam type, right? Like I know you're scared for a second, but you got to like realize like, oh okay, I got to here, I am no longer killable. I'm gonna fly up and get LOS to beam someone, right? The guy critical on your right, by the way. Okay, it's time he healed himself. Alright, we're taking high ground. Fine. That's awkward. Don't need to peek the enemy team like ever, so just like chill back here, yeah. Alright, so in an ideal world, your Echo would go over this roof over here, right? And go for a backstab as like your Tracer and Ball are going in, right? And you would just follow her in, right? Let's see if that happens. It does. Awesome. Alright, so now we just need to make a play. We're in. This is great. We get an immediate kill. So this is where the over pocket mentality can happen, and it's kind of problematic. Oh, I guess he's purple. Yeah, but the purple should be wearing off here. Yeah. He's already dead. Never mind. Okay, didn't matter. I was gonna say, like, in times like there are certain times when you like, if you, especially in high ground and you're next to the guy you're supposed to be pocketing, like you can just kind of stop healing them for a second or stop pocketing them and pocket someone else who's eating focus, right? And like actually like help them out. But in this case, right, like that guy's the ball's purple, he's gonna die. Not much you can do about it. This is kind of questionable play. That was not a good shift. Oh god. Alright, let's talk about that real quick. This is mostly micro stuff, but... Oh, not far enough back. So here, right, it doesn't matter if Fush is going to drop, you don't move. Because going deeper is not the answer, because this is your escape plan usually. Right? Unless Fush is calming that he wants to go this way to get out, which is not really the best plan. Then you gotta understand that it doesn't matter what Fush is doing, this is the actual escape route, right? So you gotta like stick with Fush as much as you can, but don't like commit fly to like put yourself on the other side of Fush. You see what I mean? Like when you fly, you usually commit yourself to going past the guy, right? So you don't need to fly here. And you see how this happens, right? You fly, you end up past this guy, right? And now you're in the one in the awkward position, and then on top of that, you land on low ground. Like you don't land on the high ground, and now you're like, oh shoot, I need to get LOS to stick with Fush, right? And then this fly, also, again, you can't, like, you messed it up, right? Instead of just, like canceling it, pushing it more to the right, and then just, like, crouching and walking across, right, and being fine. Like, again, you missed the high ground twice now. I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but this is, like, a mechanical issue. And now it'll just force you to walk in front of the whole enemy team to get LOS. Like, it's really, like, you're actually pretty lucky that these guys were all really low and didn't feel confident, like, pushing out. Oh, this is not the escape plan? Again, get LOS as fast as you can. So when you fly up, go this way. Oh, okay. Go this way, right? So you LOS, right? And not this way, where you can get shot still, right? See how that works? Maycree. No Maycree. Done. I like this. Alright, again, we need to set up a play. We're taking way too long to get set up, as per usual. Our Tracer's got pushed out and died, which is going back. Uh-oh. You guys are in an awkward spot right now. Yeah, see, like you keep like going past people when that actually puts you in more danger. This is the like another time that you've done that. Goodbye.
A speedy recovery. Damage. The battle continues.
Okay.
Adjusting angle.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like a lot of what Mercy does is like invisible because it's like in comms, and like your Mercy play is like fine now compared to like when we started. It's like pretty solid. And, like you have some issues here and there. Like you're not very decisive with Valk still. And like your GA usage can be like a little questionable sometimes. But like your overall like basic gameplay is like pretty solid. But like again, like what Mercy brings to the table is like a large part comms, right? And that can be difficult while you're pocketing someone and you're giving them a lot of attention. You're not looking at your other team very much, the rest of the team, the enemies very much. But it's important that you try, right? Because like again, your character is like doesn't have a whole lot to worry about. So like if people are having trouble setting up, right, like you can contribute in the comms meaningfully to make it faster, more efficient, right? Whoops.
Healing stream engaged.
Yeah, do you see how like
Never die.
while you're healing this hog, right? This is in the classic case, right? You're staring down your hog to heal him, right?
Healing stream engaged.
And meanwhile, you see that through this wall that people are walking forward, right? So you know that they're about to get aggressive, and you're just staring down this hog. And you're not looking at anything else, right? You're just looking here, despite the fact there's a lot of stuff happening here, and you can hear this. In general, you should just be looking around more, because like again, once you connect the beam, you don't have to do anything for a couple seconds, so you can look around, right? But you were like this close to die.
Heroes never die.
This is not the Valk. So Valk is normally okay in this situation, right? But he shatters your echo and he charges your echo. You can see he's about to do that, right? So unless like your Zen body blocks the charge with with a really fast trans, which is kind of unlikely, then unless you see that happen, you shouldn't Valkyr because he's dead, and unless you can secure the res, which is like you don't know whether or not that's going to happen, right? Then there's no point in ulting before you get to here, right? So just play it slow, especially when you're not shattered, right? Just like back up, play it slow, and see if there's the fight's turnable. If it's turnable, then you pop Valk and jump out, right? And go for the res and blah blah blah, right? But don't like rush, don't immediately Valk as soon as they ult until you know like kind of the approximate outcome of the ult. And the current outcome is that you're down a DPS and your Zen just trans. So now like you actually have no damage whatsoever. So this fight's not turnable anymore, right? Like your Zen's in trans, right? There's no Discord out, I believe. Yeah. And your hog is like running for his life, and your DPS are like your divers are not set up for this. They're like set up for point, right? So this play is just like there's no damage, right? Your team's not gonna kill them, so there's no point in this Valk. And so that's two support ults with no value, right? And that's like that's an easy way to like lose 2 CP. Oh, you don't even have Valk or res. Okay, that was definitely not the Valk then, because like you again, you know you. As soon as he goes for a pin on your Echo is dead, right? Unless this guy messes up, in which case you can Valk after that, right? Unless the Rhine misses the pin somehow and you're stunned Echo, right? Your Echo is dead and you can't save her, right? So then don't even try to don't even try it, right? Valk doesn't save her. Like it's kind of like with Grav and Lamp, right? You need to know the follow up to the Grav before you commit the Lamp, because if you commit the Lamp at a bad time for a specific follow up, your team's gonna have a bad time, right? So if your team's getting Graved, right? And you lamp immediately, and then they dragon and kill your lamp before the dragon like is done with the grab, or before the grab expires, then your lamp didn't save anyone, right? In fact, it was just like an extra like a minor at most like a minor speed bump for them, right? So this is like really important. That like when they ult, like consider the follow up, right? So this guy shatters. What is his follow up? Is he going to like swing and fire strike? Is there a lot of people stunned on the ground? What's he going to do? He went for a pin, right, which is a guaranteed kill. So you're done, right? Don't even bother.
Greetings. I'm taking care of you. You should be at peak performance level. Damage systems increase. I'm with you. Damage boost engaged. Don't let up on them.
Oh, that's awkward. Alright, so what you should do here is you should try and super jump off of one of these fat boys in front of you. Like go here, right? Super jump up, get up here, and then, I mean, maybe not when the grab comes out, but like try and get high ground, or like launch off your Zen and like land over here, and that way you have high ground. And you can see more of the battlefield. You can influence more from safety, right? You have a tendency to just sort of play behind people, right? So this whole time you've been chasing Echo behind you, even when she was like threatening to LOS you, instead of just playing like alternate angles, right? You can just sort of like super jump off your Echo, or just like slingshot and land on the moving on the platform and get up high ground, right? And that way you can heal everyone here. or just like super jump off her, land on the high ground as well, right? But this whole time you're just kind of playing behind everything, and it makes it kind of awkward when like the angles aren't good, right? So if possible, you want to get to the high ground somehow, right? And you can either use it to teammate on the high ground, right, like your Zen or the like maybe your Tracer who gets up here somehow, right? Or you can super jump at any time if as long as it's like relatively convenient. This is like any of these guys can do it for you, right? Obviously not when the grab comes out, because if trying to super jump on them will get you like stuck in the grab. But like right now, this is a great time to just super jump up, get in the high ground, right, and be relatively safe. I like the damage boost on Push, as well as the prioritization of your Tracer. Ah, you're in the open! And this is why like high ground's better, because you see this coming a little bit earlier, because you have better vision on this high ground, right? Because you look at the order this thing sees, right? It sees the high ground first, then it sees the low ground, right? So if you're on high ground, you'd see this coming earlier, right? And then you could just dodge, right? And also just in general, like don't position here. Like I know you're trying to help your tanks, but like position closer to this corner. Like you were actually kind of close to it, and then you walked out right before this happened, right? And this is the problem with like small mispositions, right? Is they don't punish you until they do, right? And this is like a small misposition that just happened to punish you, and this is absolutely on you, right? Like there's just no need for that, right? You don't need to be here, right? You can easily be here, and you can easily be up here. In fact, you should be up here. And this makes your decision so much easier on what to do, right? Yeah, and if I remember correctly, eventually they just rush your Zen. Your Zen doesn't have support, no one's like looking at him, and then like you guys lose the fight eventually. Because Zen is kind of the whole team, to be honest. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Right. No, Brigitte. Hey.
Feeling better?
So as Brig, your primary job, especially with your packs, is to heal tanks. Or not, sorry, what am I saying? Is to heal DPS. Um, and like give them pocket. But when you have a Zen, that responsibility is like both a little bit easier and also a little bit harder in some ways, because you have just less healing output overall. But uh, your Zen is like also a good DPS pocketer, right? So it makes it harder. So you need to figure out like how much can you balance with to heal your tanks. And in general, you don't want to heal your tanks with packs very much, because like packs are very limited. That said, you do have a Widow, and Widow in general won't require a lot of healing. So you like, unlike say like an Echo Tracer, where the Echo is like expected to take at least some degree of poke. So having packs for both DPS is pretty important. But when you have Widow, like you can pack a little bit more freely. So just consider like who's on your team, who's gonna be taking damage, right? So your priorities to pack are like the Widow, she's being dove. Your Zen, if he's taking damage. And your Tracer, right? Those are your three priorities. And then like if you expect to have a lot of extra packs for whatever reason, like for example, say your Tracer and Widow both died right now, and you just have your ball to heal, right, and your Zen, right, then just like feel free to like check out packs a bit more freely, right? But when you have like more people in play, right, your Tracer can expect to take damage soon, your Widow might take damage soon, and your Zen is actually taking damage right now. So like there's not a lot of packs to spend, so this pack on the ball is a little sketch. It's okay, because like again, you have a Widow, and also he was very low. Um, but like uh, in general, be very conservative with packs. Yeah, and this is a common problem with supports, but you don't have to walk towards people to heal them, right? By walking in front like this, you threaten dying to the Hanzo, right? When you can just stand here and then like tell him to peek you for a half second, or just like swing out a bit, right? And then heal him, right? It's not difficult at all. And this way, you don't expose yourself. I know it's like you're supposed to stack with your Zen, but like what kind of dive threat do they have for your Zen, right? Almost none. So your positioning is a little bit more flexible than like always standing next to him, right? And if you're gonna cross an open gap, make sure you shield it, right? Or at least look, right? And that way you don't walk into like a random arrow like this. That's awkward. Again, like, do you see how like you've almost died a couple times now? And now like the worst thing you can do as Brig is like take damage, because now like you're diverting attention away from the orb, right? So at this point, realistically, you should know that like your team is undiveable, right? And like, especially since the only one they have left to chase your people around is the Lucio, and Zen Widow can usually handle Lucio just fine. So at this point, because you don't want to demand healing from your Zen, you can just drop down, grab the mini, and then start walking out a point and see if you can do anything. Maybe not that aggressively. It depends on like what they're doing. But like right now, like you're low, you don't want to demand Harmony Orb, so you need to grab the pack and then figure out what to do from there, right? Especially since you know these guys are undiveable. If they were diveable, right? Like the enemy team was running a dive comp, you can just ask for orb and then like back up a step, right? Because at that point, like you can't separate from your Zen, right? But you don't want to sit up here at 80 HP as well, because that's also pretty bad. And again, this is why taking damage is so problematic, because whenever you take damage as Brig, it's a pain to heal you up, because you can't heal yourself. That pack's fine, you have an extra right now. But you see how this whole time you just haven't gotten healed? And this isn't really Brian's fault, because the whole time like Dan's been dying as well, right? He hasn't moved the orb from Dan the entire fight. And like, again, it's just hard to heal you. So try not to take damage. Oh, that's super unlucky. That said, like, probably should just not drop your shield until like you're between shots.
No one can hide from my sight.
Nice. So the combo for Brig is smack, bash, smack, whip. And I believe that let me add it up. It's like 145 damage, I think. So it comes just short of like killing a tracer. Yeah, so it's smack, bash, smack, whip, right? So right there, that was almost good, right? But you missed the smack in between the bash and the whip. And it may kill you here, depending on like how much. Yeah, so he gets an extra shot off, essentially, because it took you an extra hit to hit him, right? And if you had better aim, like you could have died there, right? So just something to keep in mind. And again, don't be afraid to grab the pack. Healing yourself is kind of hard. Ooh, be careful with that. Oh, did your shield break? No, your shield's fine. Okay, yeah, you should shield first before you do anything, right? As just in Brig, just a good habit on Brig in general is just like using your shield whenever, because it's like very disposable, and it protects you from almost anything, right? It's so valuable. But, don't get the risk. Take the risk of getting hooked. Like the flail is not important. Shield first. Figure out if you can flail second, right? That pack's okay. Like the problem is like if you pack now, this is ah. All right. So your team's coming back. You're about to take a fight, right? You have no packs, right? So imagine if a couple Lucio shots hit your Widow now, right? And you have 6 seconds until your next pack, right? This is when it gets ugly, right? So like yes, you can heal Dan. But Dan is going to grab Mega anyways, right? So this pack doesn't really benefit him, right? And he's also not in a hurry to heal up because he just used his cooldowns and he's leaving, right? So he's not in a hurry to heal up. He's going to grab the Mega anyways. And like again, like don't overemphasize healing your tanks. Both your tanks will be fine, right? If you heal tanks, very rarely does your heal pack save a tank from dying, right? It's like Mercy-Brig, right? 55 healing per second doesn't save anyone. So you can only do it when you're close to ult, which you are. And when if you have like packs to burn, right? You're at 3 packs, and you might as well just use it so you can charge another one because you don't anticipate needing one like immediately, right? But once you start chucking out packs, especially at low pack counts, this is when it gets ugly, right? Again, be really careful. A whip is not worth getting hooked for. Positionally, this is also kind of awkward. Ah, that's awkward. Okay, I don't know the timing. That's unfortunate. All right, we're living. Go join your Zen. That's fine. You might even consider like bashing over to him, make it faster. Again, like you packed your Widow for like 20 HP, right? That's in this case it's more okay, right? Because that was max packs, so you just put it on cooldown, right? But just keep in mind like if like you actually needed to do that, right? Ah! He's full health! He's missing like 50 HP. Don't pack that. You already have ult as well. Alright, that's fine. And you didn't give him a second pack, so I'm pretty okay with that. You didn't pack him again. So when that hog's like pushing the stairs though, again, a big thing you can do, just like with Mercy, is gathering intel, right? This is why like they're oftentimes played by the same player because they do very similar things, right? So when you're playing Mercy, when you're pocketing your Zen or something, you can look down this hallway for your Zen, right? When you're playing Brig, you can just sit here and you can scout this hallway without even letting them know you're scouting it by just like shield by corner peeking with your shield, right? Or you can go over here, check this corner as well, right? You can corner peek with the shield, right? And you know whether people are coming up. And you can protect your team without actually like letting them even know you're watching, right? And that's really really valuable. But like the more you focus on what's out in front of you and what to heal, right? The less you're focusing on this, which is actually where it's which is actually important. Because if the hog gets it here without being seen, this is a big problem, right? But if it gets it here and you see him, it's a completely different issue, right? Really important. Scouting is almost everything, right? Like again, you're so focused on trying to pack your widow, but like it's not important. Your widow will be fine. There's a Zen, right? Zen can heal her. Alright, just wait, kite out the beat probably, and then when they overextend, you can just rally. That's unlucky. Blocking shadows with Brig shield is like super unreliable. You generally speaking have to be grounded and looking like making sure your shield isn't like you're not looking up during it. That said, whenever you're gonna rally, right? Well, on one hand, you can rally like an area by like just being there, right? Generally speaking, with the rally, you want to focus on someone and try and isolate them, right? So in this case, right, who are the easy targets, right? There's a Lucio behind you that is kind of hard to chase down, but he is behind you. And then there's a Hanzo in front of you, and there's the Ana. These guys don't matter. You don't want to do anything with them because they're very tanky, right? And like they're hard to burst. What you want are the squishies, right? And in this case, they're both badly out of position. The Hanzo's not on high ground. The Ana is like sitting in hut for some reason. So this is when you just hold WM1 and you run straight at them, right? You got to find the priority target, especially during rally, when you're more invincible and can actually play more aggressive like a Rhine, right? But this, right? You see how like you just kind of give order to everyone and you don't do anything, right? Like so you gotta find a target, prioritize it. You don't necessarily have to run at it per se, but you do need to call it out and like use your like at least throw like a whip at it, right? Like contribute like you want to contribute on the target, right? And in this case, because both your DPS are dead, you are the DPS now. You need to kill this guy, right? Especially with your rally. So don't do this, right? Look at this guy, right? Or even this guy, right? This guy's even low, right? It's even better. But this whip doesn't do anything. You don't even get a chance to bash. And then you die before like the ults come out, which is super unfortunate. And again, notice we used both support ults and lost. Like that's a big monkey ass. Alright, also again, don't wait for your Zen to walk out. Like you know where your Zen's gonna be. He's gonna be going high ground, so just get to high ground first in case like something happens in the next like 15 seconds, right? Like for example, someone's already on point, right? If you're high ground, like you might like be better positioned to like either cut off the support or like whip them from safety, right? Or see more. Just like there's a lot of stuff you can do. But like don't wait for your Zen before you set up. Like now you're stuck on low ground because you got baited, right? And your Zen is also getting baited to stay here as well, right? And that's just a simple fact that like you guys didn't take high ground earlier. Alright, they just W'd to point though. They didn't clear any angles. Your team collapses. It's fine. You guys were so close to giving up a tick though. Again, questionable pack, right? If a DPS needs a pack right now, you cannot provide it because you just packed a tank, right? So again, what are the enemy flankers in the enemy team? They have none, right? It's just a Lucio, really. So in general, you should position up here because it's easier to find whips, and it's easier to also potentially find things that you can contribute to by dropping and bashing later into the fight, right? But you can't do that from here, right? So yes, this is like where your Zen is positioned, but there's no dive threat, right? So as long as you can pack your Zen, you're chilling, right? You don't have to stack with them all the time if there's no danger for him, right? The only thing you have to watch out for is the Lucio, in which case, like, you can pack your Zen when he duels the Lucio, or call out the Lucio before he gets to your Zen, right? Either stop him from getting there by just body blocking this, right? This path, right? Or call him out for your team so that your team can mess with him before he gets to your Zen, or just call it out your Zen so that your Zen sees it coming and he can like rotate away from him and shoot the Lucio before he gets to him. And again, when you start kiting a Zen against like anything, like it's so hard to catch you, unless like you have like a lot of mobility and a lot of burst damage. So like a Zen who's looking for the Lucio coming at him from a distance, right? That Lucio's never getting in, right? Yeah, you can solve a lot of problems with just better like comms and awareness. But you don't want to be here because you don't do anything from here. You're purely a pack bot, right? Pack bot now. because of the way you've set up. There's Zen fell. Unlucky. Again, like you even leaned in his direction, like you had to like help him, but like no, you don't need to, right? He's fine. He'll be here and he'll be fine, right? Just be near-ish to him. Like you see how like you don't offer anything here, right? Like you're just kind of stuck here, and like all you can whip are potentially this guy or like the shield, as opposed to being here, where you're actually like a real threat for this Ana, right? That she has to respect. That's my DM, sorry. Right, like again, you're literally contributing packs and nothing else. All right, you almost killed her. But like, imagine right now if you packed your Zen because to heal him, and then you just dropped on this Ana with your Tracer. This guy would be so sad, right? Like, and that's the power of positioning more advanced and more like forward locations as a melee character, right? Or like you can even bash across and go mess with the Hanzo. Not recommending that, but like again, there's just more options if you play more forward as opposed to just constantly sitting next to your Zen when you don't have to, right? Obviously, when you need to stand by your Zen, you better be standing by your Zen. But you got to also recognize when you don't need to. Be careful jumping when your shield breaks, because you have no way of like blocking shots, so you become a normal squishy at that point. Go take the pack! Your Zen needs it. That's fine. I guess he already has ult. But like it still delays you, right? It gets you delays you getting it back to high ground setting up, so might as well just ask your Zen for orb at that point. Just walk up the normal way. How far? Okay, I'm already 3 minutes in. Okay, let's wrap up here. So for your Mercy, a big part of it is actually just calming more, and controlling the situation as much as you can. In this case, like obviously, like I know when you're pocketing someone, it can be difficult to keep track of what's going on, but that's where like getting better at Mercy comes in. So you can autopilot the pocket more, right? And control the and, like spend more time looking around and controlling the situation. Also, just be more aware of what's going on around you. Like, don't stare down who you're healing. Look around. Like, especially once you connect the beam, there's nothing else to look at. Especially if it's a Roadhog who's not gonna like fly away from you. And then for Valk, like you got to be more decisive with when it's your time to Valk. So either know like when the fight's on, right, and it's a fight worth Valking for, or right when it's too late, they've already initiated and you're not gonna save anyone, right? Like, um, so in like the first point example, your team was ulting on point as your Echo died, right? So at that point, the fight's on, your team's committed, you help them out, right? But in the second point example, right, they fought way out here, your team was not ready, right? They ulted and then they opened with a pin on a guy when you don't have res, right? In which case, right, there's no point in Valkying because you can't save this fight because again, you need 6 people to take 2 CP. It's very very hard to do so otherwise unless the team does some really dumb stuff. So just be really careful with that and just be really aware of like when you decide to actually use Valk. For your Brig, you need to be more disciplined with pack. I say this to like every Brig because every Brig is not disciplined with packs, but it's not extra. It's incredibly important because not having packs is like a game can potentially just lose fights, right? Also just be more like um just be more ready to use your shield. Your shield blocks a lot of like it solves a lot of problems for you just by putting it up whenever you need to, or just holding it up sometimes even. Like for example, if like you don't know whether there's a Hanzo here, right? You can just like first you can corner peek it, right, using the shield tech, or you can just like walk around the corner holding shield, and if the Hanzo shoots you, there's 0 risk of headshot, and then you just like drop your shield and go back, and now you know there's Hanzo there, right? This is really valuable things that Brig can do that like most supports can't, right? And again, when you're doing when you're doing nothing, right? Look around, right? Start checking at corners, right? Like you don't always need to be sitting next to your Zen, especially when they actually don't have any threats for him, right? If there's no threats, right, you don't need a pocket, so go do other things, right? Um, and also like if you don't need to pocket your Zen, that unlocks you to be aggressive. Because if all you're gonna do is sit back here, you might as well play Mercy, right? Because if you're playing Mercy, at least you can damage boost your Zen, right? But if you're gonna play Brig, and all you're gonna do is throw packs, right? You might as well be playing Mercy because you can do other things, right? So if you're gonna play Brig and there's no threat for your Zen, right? You can still get value off of Brig, right? You don't have to swap to Mercy. You can just play here, and now you're actually a real threat that people have to respect, right? So overall, like if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. And if you get to this part of the video, DM me what let's see, 45 divided by 3 is.